Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Burn, Nick, and today we're going to be talking about the characters, the people, the folks you see in the cigar lounge. Yes, we're going to be talking about the 7 people that you will probably find in your local cigar lounge. And this all leads to a special PulpitFest announcement. But anyway, before we get into that, let's get a cigar going. So today, I am going to be smoking the Crux Bull Bear Gordo. Yes, I talked about this in the 3 cigars I smoked and enjoyed last week in the last episode that I did with Noah. And by God, I enjoyed it so much, I got myself another one, and I'm going to smoke it here on the show. And so this is a 6x60 Gordo. If you notice, it does have that rounded cap, but if you're watching on the YouTubes and the Rumbles, you can see it's got almost like a stubby torpedo cap. It's not like your normal cigar cap where it's like rounded, but like almost like borderline flat with the rest of the cigar. And so it's almost got like this like extended cap or stubby torpedo cap going on. And so what's nice about that is you still get the full, amount of tobacco from a Gordo, but you can kind of cut it down to a slightly smaller mouth size than the 60. So anyway, so we got the 6x60 Gordo here featuring a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Nicaraguan filler. It is made at the Plasencia factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. And according to Crux, you should get flavor notes of wood, chocolate, and earth from the Bull Bear. So we're going to give this thing a cut and light, and we're going to get it going. And that means it is time to cut the cigar. The official cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. 2 Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows 2 Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You won't be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and excellent customer service. My shipment that I placed last week, my order that I placed last week from 2 Guys, should be arriving in today's mail. And I'm looking forward to it because they have that banana cigar from Asylum in there. And I have Perdomo Legacies in there. I have Gold Stars. I have all kinds of great stuff. But for some reason, as I sit here, I can't explain it to you. I think I'm most excited about trying this banana cigar from Asylum. And is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I don't know, but I'll know as soon as my box from 2guyscigars.com gets here. So head on over to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase. Let them know that the Cigar Pulpit sent you. And remember, that's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, it's time to go ahead and cut the cigar. I think I even did that prematurely, but anyway. So we'll give this guy a cut, and then we can get on with the business of the day. We got all kinds. This has been a good day. This has been a good day so far, and I'll get to all that in a little bit. But, you got a nice, kind of woodsy and chocolatey. Their flavor notes are dead on at Crux. You get a nice woodsy and chocolatey kind of thing going on the cold draw on the Bull Bear here. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this thing lit. And with that, we will do the greatest commercial that you've ever heard.
Some say cigars are all the same. It's just not true. It's you I have to blame.
Well, I don't know, 'cause what I know, there is a cigar called Aladino. Corojo.
Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. They say authentic, so we're not confused. use, while the others say it's a word that's just abused.
I guess that's so. They can't compete. At least I'm sure Aladino can't be beat.
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Cigars uses authentic Corojo tobacco from JRE Tobacco. This is the greatest commercial you ever heard.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our cigar going here, and you guys notice it's kicking off a ton of smoke. It's a nice smoky little chimney here. I'm digging it. I'm loving it. And yeah. So today, I went to the old ChatGPT, and I asked them for some solo podcast ideas. And let me tell you, ChatGPT gives you some weird shit sometimes. They gave me all kinds of options. But one thing they did give me that got me thinking, it said something along the line, talk about the different personalities you see in the cigar lounge. And so I did some thinking, and I came up with a nice list. ChatGPT had a list, and I kind of looked at it and I'm like, no, I like this. Some of it applied, some of it didn't, but whatever, be that as it may, we're going to go down this list. And so we're going to talk about the people that you can always find in a cigar lounge if you spend enough time there. Okay. Obviously this is not like an end-all be-all list. So if you guys have people that you think of like this that you want to contribute, feel free to call the hotline, area code 863-874-0000. Let me know. Maybe you're one of these people. Maybe you're self-aware enough to be able to say, that's me. That's totally me. But be that as it may, maybe there's other personality types that we have overlooked, and maybe you want to contribute. So first up, we got to talk about the professor. Now, the professor is also the know-it-all. Knows everything about everything, talks to you, not with you. Usually will start sentences with, well, actually, and goes from there. This says also smokes Cubans, or it says Cubans are overrated depending on who's listening. I don't know about that, but come on. Every single one of us has encountered a know-it-all in the cigar lounge, and you know who they are. Yeah, I'm sure every one of you who has a lounge of your own, you're sitting back and you're going, I know this person. I know exactly who I'm thinking of. And they all have one. So next up, we have the storyteller. The storyteller, every cigar sparks a 30-minute anecdote or longer. Some are great, and some are just long. This says that the signature line of the storyteller is, this reminds me of the time I was in Honduras in 1994. I don't know about all that, but the bottom line is, there's somebody that's always got a story. Now, I've encountered some of those people, and, I like the storytellers. I think you find out some interesting stuff. You meet some interesting people that way. There was a dude down at Ken's shop, the Ash and Ale, host of PulpitFest 2025, which we're going to have some information about that coming up later in the show. But Ken down at Ash and Ale, he has a member there who was, I think he was an instructor or one of the main dudes at Top Gun, like the real Top Gun, like the fighter jet pilot school, training school. We're the Navy's one. We're not talking about like the movie. He was actually in the movie. He was in the first movie. He had a very brief blink and you miss him appearance at the very beginning when they're showing all the action on the aircraft carrier and everything, like in the title sequence of the first movie. But no, this old boy was like the guy, like, he was like one of the dudes at Top Gun. And come on, that's pretty badass. And you want to hear stories from a guy like that. So hopefully he fits the archetype of the storyteller, because, you know, that's how you learn cool stuff. Next up, we have the humidor lurker. This is the guy who comes in, rarely buys anything, probably only buys the, you know, more budget-friendly cigar, but always is looking at other stuff, and will also maybe inspect over, like, you know, the same 3 cigars for like 20 minutes. The employees are never really sure if he's casing the place or if he's just really indecisive. But he just kind of comes in, lurks around, maybe gets, like I said, maybe gets something. If he buys anything, he's buying, like, I don't know, like a quorum or something relatively inexpensive, so that he can smoke and just kind of hang out. You know, I'll admit, I haven't, this was off of the ChatGPT list. I don't really know those guys. I haven't really encountered those guys. I'll say most cigar shops don't break out the budget bundle cigars and put them out as singles. I can only think of maybe one shop that I know of that does that. And it's funny because reps tell them all the time, don't do that, because guys are just going to sit and smoke the cheapy ones and not buy the more expensive ones, or not more expensive, you know, well, yeah, higher dollar, the more expensive than the budget bundle ones. And boy, this guy just doesn't listen. And I will say, I notice that his customers, they'll buy like maybe 1 or 2 $10 cigars, but then they supplement that with like 1 or 2, you know, $4 cigars. So would they buy 3 $10 cigars, or would they only buy the 2 $10 cigars? You know, that's the thing. Is he making an additional 8? Is he losing 2? Is he, you know, just, I mean, I don't know. And he'll never know, because it's the way it is. But that's a whole side note. But anyway, I haven't really encountered the humidor lurker. Do you guys have any humidor lurkers in your shops? You know, the people that come in and just don't typically buy anything. They just kind of come in and look at shit for a while and then leave. I don't know. That doesn't seem the same to me. This is another Chat GPT one. The collector. It says he smokes 1 out of 50 cigars he owns. Talks about all the rare cigars, like their gold bars, you know, and he just kind of hoards cigars instead of collects them. I've encountered people that have deep collections where they have a lot of older cigars in their collections, and they're not necessarily like smoking them quickly and rapidly. Hell, one could argue that I am one of those, because I have so many damn cigars in there, and I get so many of them either through all sorts of various means that, you know, I've got cigars that, I mean, it's not that I intended to sit on them for 5 years, but there's cigars in there I've been sitting on for 5+ years and 5-6 years. And it's just the way it is, you know. It's like I said, it's not that I've intended to, it's just how it went down. With that said, I wouldn't consider myself a collector. I'm not seeking out specific cigars and saying, like, I want to sit and hoard these. You know, I don't know. And I would also say that there's the ager, you know, the people that they buy something specifically to age it and try it later. But even them, they want to they eventually want to smoke them. They don't want to, like, just sit on them forever and ever and ever. So I don't know. Do you guys have collectors in your lounge? Maybe you are the collector. I don't know, but I think I've inadvertently become somewhat of a collector. I don't think I'm I'm a collector by nature in that regard, at least not with cigars. Then we have the lounge DJ. Now, the lounge DJ, this is the guy who has control of the music, sometimes with a blessing, sometimes he just kind of takes it. Genres will jump from smooth jazz to trap to Metallica in one visit. I also, well, okay, I can't say this. I've encountered this one time. Typically with a lounge DJ, it's the shop. The shop is playing whatever music or whatever. Now, you could expand this out beyond music, and you could make it the entertainment coordinator. And it's beyond music. It's also taking over the television set and holding the remote and ruling what everybody's watching on the TV. That person I've encountered many, many different spots. The music one, not so much. There was one gentleman, one time. Well, I encountered him many times, but it was only maybe a couple times he did this. But he would bring in his own private portable Bluetooth speaker, and he would just sit and play music off of his phone for the whole lounge. And some of that music was music that, everybody enjoyed. Some of it was not. The problem was the volume. He kept it at such a volume that it was difficult to have conversation in the lounge. And when you would ask him to turn it down, he would for a little bit, but eventually at some point it would be like, oh, this song is great. And then he'd turn it back up. And next thing you know, you're impossible to have a conversation again. So I have encountered the lounge DJ. Have you guys, I keep asking, but like, I'm curious if these are ones that people have encountered, because, I can't say that one is a regular one. The TV, like I said, more of the entertainment coordinator. The guy who rules the TV, that one I've encountered quite a bit. And typically, I don't give a shit. I mean, 9 times out of 10 when I'm in the cigar lounge, it's some sort of sports or a movie. And I'm not going to complain either way. But some people have issues. Some people have issues and they want to rule the roost, and that's fine. I don't care. Anyway, all right, moving on. We got 2 more here. So we have the snob. And the snob is doing one of 2 things. He's either judging the cigar that you're smoking based upon the band and is commenting on the cigar. And typically the snob is also a combination of snob / know-it-all, in that the snob is not only judging the cigar that you're smoking based off of the band and sometimes the aroma of the cigar, things like that, but also that's when you get into the know-it-all stage, which is they've smoked everything. They've smoked your cigar, they've smoked their cigar, they've smoked the cigar that everybody else is smoking. They've had every freaking cigar you can possibly think of, and they have opinions about every single cigar that they, can possibly think of. So, you have that. And I call him the snob because this is the gentleman who, for those people who maybe are coming in and sitting and having a lower priced, more budget-friendly cigar, they can be a little snobby about the fact that you're smoking a cheaper cigar versus one that, has a little bit more money behind it. Like, are they sitting and smoking like a $25 cigar? Maybe. And if so, are they looking down at somebody smoking like a $15 cigar or a $10 cigar? They're definitely looking at down on somebody that's under a $10 cigar. But, these are the people that typically what ends up happening is like one of 2 things. Either one, everybody figures out who they are and they just kind of are like, yeah, we put up with him, but, it is what it is. It's not that big of a thing. Or eventually they just kind of move on to another place because they get kind of ostracized. People tend to stop talking to them after a while, and they kind of pick up. They're not stupid. At some point, they pick up some social cues and realize maybe I'm not the most friendly or welcome person at this place. I don't know, but that's been my experience. Finally, you have the newbie, and we've all been there. Every single one of us has been there. We've been nervous to go sit in the back because we don't know everybody. You walk in a room and there's a room full of people and they're all laughing and cutting it up because, they're all familiar with one another and they know each other and everything else. And then you're the new person and you're coming in and you got to find a chair, and it can be intimidating, but it shouldn't be, but it can be. But we're the new person there. And then when you do go in, and sit down, you're keeping my cigar going. You're prepping your cigar, and maybe you've only cut and lit your cigar at home, and so because you've only cut and lit maybe you've never done it before in your life. Maybe this is the first time you're even doing it. I don't know if that would end up being the case. I don't know how many people jump in and light their cut and light their first cigar ever at a cigar lounge, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I would think guys like Dave and Mr. Jonathan and Ken and some of the the shop owners, they would know that better. But I would think it would not be necessarily and if they are doing it for the first time, I would think they'd be with someone who's familiar with it. But anyway, be that as it may, if you've been doing it at home your whole smoking life, and now you're in front of people for the first time, maybe you're a little self-conscious about, oh, am I cutting off too much? Am I lighting it wrong? Doing this, doing that, whatever. We've all been there. We can identify those people. We see them when we see them. And I think that's when it's imperative on all of us to do our job to make them feel welcome, help them out, There's a way to educate without condescending, We can make people, welcome in the lounge, and eventually they transition out of newbie and become one of the others. So there's that. So anyway, that's what I got. We got the professor, we got the storyteller, we got the lurker, the collector, the lounge DJ, the snob, and the newbie. What else have you guys encountered? What other personality types have you encountered in the cigar lounge? Because here's my contention. Every cigar lounge has these people. They're just different people at each lounge. And so, let's say somebody were to, create like a Cheers, only instead of it being based in a bar in Boston, it's maybe a cigar lounge, These are all the characters you're going to encounter on that show. One of these people, one of these characters will be they're all going to be on the show. Every one of them will be present and accounted for. So anyway, call in with your personality types. Call in with your ideas for the lounge personality types. Area code 863-874-0000. Okay, so real quick, just because I've had a few people inquire and ask, just kind of want to see if I'm doing all right. I appreciate that. I am doing well. I'm actually doing pretty well. All things being equal, we're managing a few things, taking care of some things. Had another doctor's appointment today. Down 13 pounds since the end of May when I was out there for my first consult. So, I'm pretty happy about that. We're down 13 in 2 weeks. So, I mean, that's pretty solid. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. Had my son a whole lot this weekend. I've had my son a lot this month, and I've really enjoyed it. But man, he was a freaking hurricane this weekend. He kicked my ass, and I'm still recovering. But obviously, I'm sorry. I hate when I'm yawning like this. And if I weren't 24 minutes, almost 25 minutes into the podcast, I would stop and do this. But I record this in one long shot. I don't break it up and edit, because that would require editing the video, and well, I just don't do that, because that's something that younger people know how to do, and I can do what I do, but when we start getting into advanced video editing, that's not something I do. Anyway, so before we get into the Villiger and the Blackbird segment, I have a big announcement that I have to make. So for those of you who have been sitting on the fence about getting your PulpitFest tickets, maybe you're a Florida listener who is on the fence about, coming to PulpitFest, trying to figure it out, head on over to eventbrite.com, pick up your PulpitFest tickets. We got general admission tickets available. They are $35. You get $30 of it back as in-store credit at the Ashnale Lounge. So basically it's $5 plus some taxes and fees, and you get to come hang out. It's August 22nd through the 24th. The 24th is a super casual day. It's that Sunday. It's super casual because a lot of people are traveling back home that day. And so we really pack the fun in on Friday and Saturday. So that Sunday's pretty chill. So realistically, if you were to come out on and just do Friday, Saturday, that would be awesome. You get a nice goodie bag with all kinds of great cigars in it, and accessories and all kinds of other fun stuff. Last year's bag was valued at over $200. This year, we're trying to do more. A portion of your ticket, the ticket proceeds for this event will be going to Vincent's Clubhouse, which is a local organization that assists kids with autism with their education and various other support needs that they need. So you're doing good by coming and having cigars and hanging out. I don't know how that could be even any better, but I do know how it can be better, because while right now I have Rene Castaneda of Villiger Cigars and his guy Hector coming out to the event. His top flight sales guy Hector. Hector is a wonderful man. I cannot say enough good things about Hector. He has been so nice. He was so nice at PulpitFest last year. He was super nice at PCA this year, and I'm so looking forward to hanging out and having a good time with Hector again. But we also have Justo Aroa and Trey Mack from Aladino. You guys are very familiar with Trey Mack. And Aladino Cigars, and Justo's a wonderful man, and so they're going to be out and hanging out and everything. But I have another special guest announcement. So for those of you who have already bought your tickets, well, by God, you're getting in on the fun here. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, maybe you know these guys, and you're maybe this is what throws you over, coming and doing this. But you hear all the time in the cigar industry about how it's a tight-knit community, and how, these manufacturers, they're competitors. They are competitors, but they work together. And meaning, there's the fight against government regulation that they work together on, but they work together behind the scenes too. When you get into the history of the cigar industry, it's very, very tight knit, in that maybe this family helps this family get going, and maybe this family provided tobacco to this family, and everybody. They compete, but they prop each other up at the same time. It's a friendly competition, and so they all work together. It's kind of a once you're in, and you're propped up by the rest. Well, to that point, I was pleasantly surprised this morning, with a phone call telling me, telling me that we were going to have some special guests for PulpitFest this year. And I'm just going to get right to it. So this year at PulpitFest, coming down for Friday and Saturday at PulpitFest, we're going to have, from the Cigar Authority, we're going to have Dave Garofalo and Ed Sullivan. Dave Garofalo and Ed Sullivan are coming down to PulpitFest. They're going to come. They're going to hang out. We're going to be there Friday and Saturday. And what's fun is, they're coming down, and obviously those of you who listen to the Cigar Authority podcast, you're going to know them and you're going to be able to talk and interact with them. But what I think is really nice is, like, they decided that they wanted to do this, and they're coming down as guests. And they are incredibly gracious, incredibly it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that they're taking time out of their schedule to do this. They're making it work. They're making it work. I even asked Ed, how they're doing this. I don't know if Ed wanted me to tell, or Ed and Dave wanted me to say this or not, but, this shows me the level of dedication that they have to doing this, is that, with PulpitFest being over Friday and Saturday, I asked him, I said, how the hell are you doing your podcast on Saturday? Because they do their show every Saturday, and they're going to pre-record. They're going to pre-record that week and do an episode about cigar events, and then they're going to come to a cigar event. So I cannot express my thanks and pleasure enough that they're going to be able to come down, hang out with all of the rest of us at PulpitFest and have a good time. I'll admit there's a certain amount of, not that there wasn't pressure before, because the pressure for me is I want to make sure that not only the guests but the sponsoring entities are getting out of it what they want out of it. It's I talked about it last year, that it's the circle of life. You've got the manufacturers that sponsor PulpitFest. For me, they want to get the proper amount of publicity for themselves out of it. The guests that come to PulpitFest, I want them to get everything out of it. But the guests, they I want them to try the cigars. I want them to try the brands that are throwing their weight behind this event and everything. But also I want the guests to come down and purchase heavily from Ken. That's the whole thing, is we're doing this event in August because, for the rest of the country, we don't realize it, but for the rest of the country, winter is the slow cigar time of the year. But for Ken down in Florida, the summer is the slow cigar time because it's so hot. And so, last year, I'm very proud to say that last year, in what should have been his slowest time of the year, we were able to provide Ken in the Ash and Ale Lounge the biggest weekend he's ever had since he purchased the shop. And I'd like to break that record this year. I don't know. I'm cautiously, I'm optimistic. I want to do it, but the bottom line is we've got that coming, and so everybody has to win. The retailer has to sell cigars to consumers. That means consumers have to come in and buy big. The manufacturers want the retailer to sell big because then the retailer will buy cigars from the manufacturers to replenish that stock or to stock up in advance of this sale. And then at that point, the manufacturers, they come in, they're happy, and they put on an awesome show for the consumers. And so the consumers not only are helping the shop, but also are getting, a wonderful show from the manufacturers. And at the end of the day, as long as those three groups are winning, I'm happy. I'm a happy guy. So anyway, I hope that made sense. I'm not rambling, I am rambling. Anyway, with that being said, I'm so happy that Dave and Ed are able to come down. I want to make sure that they get in on all the fun, and I want to make sure that you guys can interact with them and have a good time too. They're wonderful people, and I'm so happy to announce that they're coming down. So guys, again, general admission tickets, are on sale at eventbrite.com. You can head on over to Eventbrite, search for PulpitFest 2025. Head on over to cigarpulpit.com. The first post on cigarpulpit.com has the link to Eventbrite, so you can purchase your tickets there. In the Pulpit Parishioners group, I think there's a pinned post with the link to Eventbrite, so you can get tickets there. There's ways to find it. It's not an expensive date. And like I said, you're getting 30 of your 35 back as in-store credit from the Ash and Ale. So, that works out. And then you're helping Vincent's Clubhouse. So, again, it's a win-win for everybody. So, if you're a Florida listener, at this point, there's no excuse. If you're a Florida listener, you've got weekend plans. You're coming to Pulpit Fest. So, get your ticket and make your way there. It's not that far from most places in Florida, and you can come and hang out. So anyway, that's the big announcement. So we've got the crew from Villiger, we've got the crew from Aladino, and now we have the crew from the Cigar Authority. And apparently Mr. Jonathan has to work that weekend, so sucks to be him. But yeah, so that's what we got going on. So now that we've got that big announcement out, taken care of, not out of the way, taken care of, because that was very good. I don't want to dismiss. Let's do this. It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family-owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. All right, guys. So I've continued on the trend of actually watching stuff. So I watched a documentary, and then I've started a new show. Now, granted, the show that I've started, they're still putting out episodes of the first season. Episodes come out every Wednesday. And so I think I've watched 3 episodes of the 4 that are currently available. The 5th one comes out this Wednesday, so whatever. But I'll start with the show since I'm talking about that. So the show is called Stick, and it's on Apple TV. It stars Owen Wilson and Mark Maron, and it's about Owen Wilson's character is a former professional golfer who hit on some rough times. We get an idea of what those times are. Private life wise, just based off of what I've seen so far, it does appear as though he lost his young son. And it looks like, based upon context clues and everything else in the story, it seems like that caused him to have a spiral and to have an utter meltdown during a tournament, and that cost him like his golfing career. So now, you meet him. He's working in a golf supply shop, selling golf clubs, and all that. And he meets this kid, this teenager, who can just rifle a ball down the fairway. I mean, this kid, he's super accurate, super good, and just amazing distance. And so he's getting behind this kid as like a coach to get this kid going on the PGA or the amateur circuit and trying to get him to go professional. And so that's the story is basically like, so far he's convincing the kid and getting going with it. And so, and all that, but I'm digging it, like it was kind of sold to me as like, if you like Ted Lasso, you might like this. It's not quite as wholesome as Ted Lasso. I mean, it's a very good show. It's not like it's a bad show, but it's not quite as like, it's not quite as wholesome as Ted Lasso, but it's similar. I can see the similarities. And I think before long you're going to have all sorts of redemption stories and things like that come through with it. So Stick. I've been enjoying Stick. And then the documentary that I watched is one that's on HBO Max. It's called Call Me Miss Cleo. And if you remember Miss Cleo, she was the woman with the psychic network hotline. And you would call her, and Miss Cleo would read your fortune, and all that. And it basically is a documentary that dives into kind of the life of Miss Cleo, but then also kind of what happened with the psychic network hotlines and how that whole thing kind of blew up and became a big deal because there was a lot of people getting scammed and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, when you watch the documentary, it doesn't seem like Miss Cleo was a bad person. She was, kind of in on it in that, like, she was the face of it, but decisions were being made above her head and things like that, and whatever. But you learn all kinds of stuff. I knew Miss Cleo had passed on. I didn't realize that it was as recently as it was. I think it was maybe like 2016, 2018, something like that. But we, Miss Cleo has passed on, but it was an interesting look at somebody who I only knew from TV infomercials. So for what it's worth, I enjoyed the Call Me Miss Cleo documentary. I thought that it was well done. It was interesting. It was entertaining and it was interesting. So, there you go. Call Me Miss Cleo. Now, let's go ahead and do this. It's time to fly high with Blackbird Cigars. Blackbird Cigars offers you remarkable quality using the most delicate and finest tobacco to always ensure that you're receiving unsurpassed cigars. Blackbird Cigars strives to give you undoubted repeating flavor for every cigar you smoke and impressive quality so that you can always expect greatness. Check out their website for a full list of stores carrying Blackbird Cigars and give them a test flight. Blackbird Cigars, can't clip our wings. All right, so speaking of Blackbird, I picked up a Cactus Wren at the Hill Cigar Company the other day, and that was a limited edition cigar that Blackbird had put out, and they still have some of the Toros there. And so I'm really excited to smoke that. I thought about smoking that on the show today. Chose not to because with it being a solo show, I tend to do a lot more talking, obviously. And so if you're watching, you can see on YouTube where my Crux Bull Bear is currently at, and you can tell I'm still in the first third. And so I didn't want to smoke the Blackbird Cactus Wren on the show because I really, on these solo shows, don't get a chance to really like get into the cigar. So I'd like to do that, but I may have to snag another one and go from there so that we can smoke it on the show when maybe I have somebody to talk to, and then that way we can really get into it and get into the flavor notes and whatnot. Anyway, so Blackbird, fly high with Blackbird. So for over 2 decades, a man quietly handed out thousands of dollars to strangers around the holidays. No one knew who he was, just that he was a kind-hearted secret Santa, giving away crisp $100 bills to people who looked like they needed a lift. The mystery man was Larry Stewart, a self-made millionaire from Missouri who had once been homeless and hungry. In 1971, he was fired from his job right before Christmas and found himself broke. One day, starving, he walked into a diner and pretended like he had lost his wallet. The owner, instead of kicking him out, gave him a warm meal and said Merry Christmas. That act of kindness stuck with Larry. When he became successful in cable TV and telecommunications, he vowed to pay it forward, but quietly. Every December, he traveled to different cities, handing out money to people on the street, in laundromats, or at thrift stores. He gave away over $1.3 million anonymously until he revealed his identity shortly before dying of cancer in 2007. Why did he finally come forward? He wanted to inspire others to help to continue the giving spirit. Larry Stewart's story surprised everyone, especially because his generosity wasn't about recognition, but about redemption. He proved that even the quietest gestures can ripple across generations. So be like Larry Stewart and Blackbird Cigars, and don't let anybody clip your wings. Well, guys, it is that time where I talk about the socials. I'm available on Instagram at the Cigar Pulpit. I'm on Facebook, where we have the Pulpit Parishioners group. You can get in on the fun over there by finding that and requesting to join. I'm on Twitter/X. I'm on Rumble and YouTube if you want to watch the fun. I'm also on Spotify video. If you use Spotify to listen to the show, you can also watch it there. You can give us a call on the Ask the Pulpit hotline at area code 863-874-0000. That's 863-874-0000. Call in with your personality types that you encounter at the Cigar Lounge. Is there one that I missed? Is there one that you encounter on the regular? Maybe you are one of the ones that I talked about, and you want to talk about how you feel about realizing that you're one of those. So anyway, give us a call on the hotline. And then PulpitFest 2025. Guys, it just became so much bigger and more fun today. I was already looking forward to it. Now I'm looking forward to it just that much more, especially since I wasn't going to be able to make the expo this year. It's like now I get to hang out with Dave and Ed down in Florida. And so come on down. It's Palm Coast, Florida at the Ash and Ale Lounge. It's half an hour south of St. Augustine, half an hour north of Daytona. It's a gorgeous area. August 22nd through the 24th. Get your tickets at eventbrite.com. Tickets are $35. You get 30 of it back. It's trust me, this is just one of those things you're not going to want to miss. Come on down to PulpitFest and hang out with us. Well, guys, it's that time. The Crux Bull Bear, smoking wonderfully. Despite having to maybe hit it with a little heat to kind of just keep it going, it's never gone out on me. It does have that nice woodsy, earthy kind of thing going on in the smoking experience. Burn line on it, despite, my talking and everything like that, burn line on it has been pretty tight. It's a little wavy, but it's not like, bad. It's burning wonderfully. And like I said, despite the fact that it's a 60, it does have that weird kind of like stumpy torpedo cap. So like the mouth feel, it feels like a Toro. It feels just fine. So anyway, I'm digging it. I love it. I will smoke more of these, and I'm a happy guy. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. This has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. Everybody, stay safe, stay smoky. Thanks, everyone.